Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about, baby, this one, Mahler, Symphony No. 6 with Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic. Now, this is a little bit slower, darker, and heavier than his first version with the New York Philharmonic, but it's still just as exciting, incredibly powerful, and it wrings every drop of expressionist horror from the piece in a way that very few other versions have done. I mean, as successfully. It's really kind of amazing. And, some people say that Bernstein's Mahler is exaggerated and all that stuff. And we've talked about this before. It's not. It isn't at all. He's one of the most literal Mahler conductors of the world. He does exactly what Mahler tells him to do, 99% of the time. Of course, he has his own personal touches and whatnot, but those are not of the exaggeration and crazy, wanton, whatever nature. I mean, he's so misunderstood and inaccurately described. And I can give you one fabulous example that tells you exactly what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the finale, the introduction to the finale with all that spooky stuff with the offstage bells and the low celesta and the harp being plucked with a pick, bang, ting, tang, tang. It's just all so creepy. And then there's that moment, the moment when the creature arises from the depths of the orchestra. The woodwinds go dum ba da 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 da, and then the horns go whoa, wah, da, da, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then a few bars later, the trumpets do the same thing. And Bernstein realizes that passage so accurately, and in doing so, better than just about any other version you've ever heard. It's a very difficult thing to do well because Mahler indicates portamenti for the brass, glissandos practically. You're supposed to slide up and down to the notes. It's supposed to sound slimy and creepy. And the thing is, this is exactly what Mahler wants, because if we take out our score, here's the stupid new critical edition with the andante in the wrong spot, second instead of third, but that's okay. But it does clean up a lot of textual things that need work. Not all of them, but most of them, which is really quite helpful. And what we see at that spot is here. Mahler is really kind of amazing. To conduct, the detail that he writes into this. So here we've got Wiederschleppend, which means dragging again. And then here, Piumoso, but not hurrying, is in a mixture of Italian and German. It's Piumoso über nicht eilen. That means quicker, but don't rush, right? And then there's a little asterisk on the horn parts. Here's the horn part. See that line there? That's the slide, the portamento, to slide from one note to the next. And that's what they do. But it's three horns in unison. Well, that makes it a little difficult because they've all got to do it together. But more to the point, what he writes here in these little notes is without acceleration, ohne Beschleunigung, and Zeit lassen, take your time. And then there's a footnote. The footnote says, Die Hörner spielen im schleppenden Tempo zu Ende, ohne sich die Beschleunigung in den anderen Instrumenten zu kümmern. Okay, that's really a very long and Germanic way of saying the horns play in a dragging tempo to the end of the phrase without worrying about the acceleration in the other instruments. So they're in their own little tempo world. And if you do that, that stretches out those slides between notes. And really, if you really realize the dynamics from piano to forte in like one note in a measure, oh, wow. And the same thing happens in the trumpets just a few bars later. And there it is right there. With some dynamic things you need to help with, because it's pianissimo with a big crescendo, but it doesn't tell you to what. But you have to get that from the context. Everyone else is doing like fortissimo, so it's got to be, right? And then there's another footnote, trumpets as previously with the horns. So there you go. it's really very straightforward. I mean, Mahler explains exactly what he wants. The fact is that nobody realizes it as well as Leonard Bernstein does. And there are countless other touches in this performance which are similar. So not only do you have glorious playing by the Vienna Philharmonic, which is not a great Mahler orchestra. I mean, everyone says, well, that's the sound Mahler had in mind. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. It was his favorite orchestra. He loved this orchestra. He loved the sound of this orchestra, for sure. But they had to be forced to make those crazy, ugly sounds that Mahler sometimes calls for. It wasn't their natural mode of utterance. And Bernstein got them to do it. He really got them to play. So you have to give him credit for that, number one. But number two, I mean, it's very well recorded. It was just I saw this live at Avery Fisher Hall when the Vienna Phil was on tour. And it was, one of those like experiences of a lifetime type concerts. It was beyond thrilling. But you don't know if that's going to translate to disc. You really don't. And it did. Where was this recorded? Actually, it was a live concert. And usually they tell you where. Because not all the sound in these things, these live things that Bernstein got was good. Sometimes they sounded very dry. And this does not. Let me see. We have to go all the way to the back page here, one of these back pages. So let's see, recording. And the Musikverein, the large hall of the Musikverein. Okay, fine. They did a very good job with it. And wow, it's a thriller. It's gut-wrenching and it's exhausting and exhilarating all at the same time. So there is no question in my mind that this is one of the greatest recordings ever. And if you really pay attention, to what Mahler wrote, and compare that to what Bernstein does, you find that it's also one of the most faithful to Mahler's intent. And that is always such a good thing. It's all about having a little bit of faith in what the composer intended, even if it sounds a little odd or strange, and giving the conductor credit for what he audibly does. The audible facts count in his favor. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.